Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is co-host Daniel McAdams. Daniel, nice to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Good. You know, not too long ago, a few days ago, I had an interview with RT. And I've visited with RT quite a few times, even when it was started, even when I was in Congress, they would come by and we'd do interviews. But they call me periodically, and I did this interview, and it was on politics, but I found it very interesting. And I believe they do a real good interview, but challenging too. I mean, they didn't let me off the hook. They wanted to know, where are the libertarians? In a way implying, what good did you do? You had a bunch of young people, and now they're all flocking to Bernie Sanders, and it looks like socialism is on its way. So I guess you got to see that interview as well, and you know a little bit about RT.
Yeah, I think it was good because it was a challenging interview, as you point out, and it is a good question. What is happening? The statistic that they threw out that I think is something that probably deserves an explanation. A recent Harvard poll showed that 51% of young adults aged 18 to 29 oppose capitalism in its current form. An interesting choice of words, though, because that doesn't necessarily negate your message.
Well, the secret to that question is in the current form. Well, first thing off, what we have today has very little to do with free markets. I want to deal with free markets. Everybody thinks capitalism, and sometimes people say laissez-faire capitalism, and that stirs the emotions too. But it's hard for us to get rid of the use of the word capitalism, but it should be in free markets. And if you have to use the word capitalism, you should say free market capitalism. But the one thing is our RT interview also asked me, well, are you upset with the current system of capitalism? Of course I am, because it's not capitalism, it's not free markets. And there's a play on semantics here. The understanding of what capitalism all about, that was a term coined by the communists to make it sound negative. And it's something that we have to talk about, because I made the point it was semantics, because even socialism, the challenge, of course, to me in the interview was, well, have all the young people gone socialist? They like this. And there's no doubt that a lot of people flocked to Sanders. Almost $200 million was raised. Yeah. And of course, that's big money too, regardless of how it comes about. But even the word socialism is grossly distorted, because if you have true socialism, you have the management of the production of goods and services literally owned and totally controlled by the state, and they maintain the pricing structure. When you drift over to true socialism, the government's involved with pricing everything. I think in my lifetime I experienced that for a couple years when we had wage and price controls in the early 70s, because everything just collapsed on that. And so we're not talking about true socialism, but we are talking about something very important, that our system is all messed up. And the politicians who are giving up on the establishment, Sanders as well as Trump, are capitalizing on this, and rightly so. So I think we're halfway there. The people are upset, the young people are annoyed, they know there's a problem, but so far, the message I tried to deliver, it looks like it's been pushed aside, and not too many people are listening to that, and they're drifting over toward a more authoritarian approach with, protectionism, as well as Bernie Sanders' socialism. And everybody knows there's problems, but hardly is the answer, well, what we need is more free stuff, or more tariff taxes.
I think there is a paradox, because I think by and large, and I think your candidacy has really underscored this, the young people don't like feeling like they're being coerced. They don't like the use of coercive force on them. And I think that's why they're attracted to candidates that they feel are outside the mainstream or are renegade sort of candidates. So they have that tendency, and I think that just goes with youth. But on the other hand, socialism, I would say, is less an economic system and more about the actual use of aggressive force and coercion. It's not a coherent economic system, it's simply the use of force to take something from here and give it over here. So there's a paradox between this attraction to and what they're finding.
Yeah, and they're responding with an immediate solution to an obvious problem without dissecting it out, and they've been influenced by the economic teachers. And you know, there's a quick turnover of young people in colleges. 4 years ago was different, and they haven't been hearing as much of the libertarian message, and they hear the message constantly. But you know, it doesn't discourage me one bit, because I think we're making great progress. But I recognize the problem we have. We have 100 years of progressivism, interventionism, you know, policing the world, central banks, and the IRS and income taxes. We're putting up with that, which is accepted as status quo, and we're trying to repeal that. But you know, the young people, they may have been influenced by this economic matters, and I do believe most people vote from their bellies, and young people are worried about jobs and cost of living, debt that they have. But when it comes to things like the social issues, there's not many young people who are chomping at the bit for more government regulations on their social life, their sexual life, or their religious life. They understand that. And they also, I think the young people, when you pin them down, are you know, people who are greatly resisting, you know, the more adult neocons who are pushing this policeman of the world stuff. So there's a lot that they still grab hold of, but the temptation to grab hold of, oh, somebody's going to take care of me and there's free stuff, and this capitalism stuff is real bad. So we have a long way to go to teach people that it's not capitalism that is the problem. It's the special interest government that has existed for years, and there's a lot of people who benefit by it. It's not the middle class and the poor, obviously.
I think you make a great point about how things have changed. If you look at an 18-year-old who got first interested in your 2007-2008 campaign as a kid fresh out of high school, that kid now was 26 years old. Chances are he or she may be married, may have children, may actually have children of school age. So you talk about the long haul. This generation who first discovered you in 07 and 08 are now doing things like homeschooling. We know the statistics there. A lot of them are looking into the Ron Paul homeschooling curriculum, which my family uses to great success. So this I view as an investment in the long term of building a generation. There is a generation of 18-year-olds now who might be attracted to Sanders for certain reasons, but you know, you pointed out in your interview to RT that Sanders tapped into this emotion that you have been addressing for years as a candidate, and you said frustration with the evil, the nonsense of our own system. So they identify the problem, but they're looking for a solution that's different.
And for years now, I've talked about you know, the end of an era, and everybody seems to be alluding to this. This is ending, but to define it, why we're having the end of an era and what are we going to replace it with? To me, the end of the era is the disintegration of the economic system. Everybody will agree, but then they want to say, oh, it's capitalism. But it isn't. It's the inflationism, it's Keynesianism, it's intervention, overtaxation, and all these things. And I date it back to the turn of the century when we had a big bust in the stock market, the NASDAQ bubble collapsing, and especially since 08, there's been no recovery. This system is failing. And that's what they're recognizing, and everybody is right there. I mean, we have Trump offering solutions, and we have Sanders offering solutions, and they have drifted away and now have, you know, really enthusiastic endorsed the ideas of liberty and sound money, getting rid of the Federal Reserve and all these things. But I think is a tremendous opportunity because the people are waking up. But we have a major job to get people to understand that just maybe government caused this mess, and it was endorsed by the intellectuals of the college communities. The professors are still teaching it, and it takes a while for the transition, but I believe the transition is there. I believe institutions, you mentioned our homeschooling, how about Lou Rockwell's, you know, Mises Institute, and how many professors do we have now? So the groundwork is being laid. I don't think that's been canceled out one bit. You know, there's still a lot of enthusiasm, and the transition won't occur unless we keep that enthusiasm going. But right now, if you just look at the surface and look at the election coming up, people you know, succumb to the cliches, and most of them are cliches. They're not answers. You know, does Bernie Sanders say how are we going to pay for this? And none of the candidates ever really came up and said precisely what we had to do. They're not precise, on foreign policy, and that's where I think is a real way to have inroads with young people. And that came up in the interview too. That that a lot of young people liked what I was saying because I wanted to get us out of this foreign involvement, the entangling alliances, the people that die, and the cost of this. It's a great economic issue. They're not emphasizing the fact if there's an economic problem here at home, maybe it's because we overregulate and overtax and we spend this money overseas. And in the process, in these past 15 years, over 10,000 Americans have died. Yeah. And many, many more have suffered severe injuries and families, and the committing of suicide continues to go on, and the cost of this is going to last a long time. But how much they're not hearing that, and it's always easier. And I argued the political case that it's much easier to go after this foreign intervention, which endangers us. It doesn't make us safe. That would be much easier than say, well, what we have to do is cut the medical care for the indigent that we've taught and said they have a right to it. Yes, that has to happen, but it's not. That's not going to be the place to start. You got to put it together, but it's all going to come apart, and then we're going to have to make this decision. And of course, that's what I'd like to do is present this case.
And I think our message is we don't want to alienate people who feel attracted to politics. They may want to support Trump. They may want to support Sanders. We don't want to alienate these people. That's okay. I think that's our message. But keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on these issues. And if you are involved in that, press these issues within these candidacies if you feel that might help. We want you to stay with us, but keep your eye on the ball and on the philosophy.
This year politics has been more seductive. I mean, it's endless, and everybody's involved, even for some of us. And I get involved because I get asked these questions all the time. But I just as soon avoid it all because I truly don't see the difference. I've never seen changes from Republicans to Democrats. It goes on and on, that we do all this change, and we then emphasize less the educational thing. We have to change people's mind. People do vote in their self-interest. So if you appeal even with demagoguery to the self-interest of young people who have huge debts and we're going to take care of it, we're going to dismiss your debt, and you're going to have free this and free that, and we can settle the employment market by just having strict tariffs on an immigration problem. That doesn't solve anything. People need to understand what's going on, and when it becomes acceptable, they know it's in their best interest. They should look and say, as a conclusion of the end of the era, it's proof positive that the 20th century proved that that this is an end of an era of interventionism and spending too much money and all these things, and therefore we have to have something else.
Hopefully that something else is free markets.
Sometimes I wonder whether it's going to be as simple as just making America great again. Yeah, I want America to be great, but I think we're still working on it. We've had some great stuff in the past, but I don't think America's become greater in the last 100 years. I don't think we're going to be great if we casually and carelessly say that we need more military money, and we need to threaten people with nuclear weapons and have more closed borders and things like that. That's not what made America great. There's great things, but right now, I would say that going in the direction of socialism and more government, that is not going to make America great. So we have to look at what we want. It's back to the old story of what is individual liberty? Why is it that individuals will take better care of themselves than government? Why systems like this are doomed to fail? Communism was doomed to fail, and actually fascism and socialism failed throughout the century, the 20th century, and it's failing now. So there's no reason to say, oh yeah, but that's true, but really what we need is more government to replace that, because we like this idea that deficits don't matter and that spending money is a good stimulus, and if you don't have enough, you print it. Believe me, that doesn't work, hasn't worked, and won't work. And the sooner we wake up to the realities of it all, we do have some guidelines, and the guidelines for moving toward a freer society has been around for literally thousands of years, and there's been progress. I don't think there's been much progress in the 20th century, but right now the stage is set because this era is ending, and it cannot, that problem cannot be solved by saying, let the government take care of us. It won't work. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.